Capitol. On the line with us is the former chief law enforcement officer of the United States, the 82nd Attorney General of the United States from 2009 to 2015, the third longest serving U.S. Attorney General, in fact, Eric Holder. And General Holder, welcome to the program. I'm curious, first of all, your thoughts on what happened on January 6th, how this committee is conducting itself, and both the law enforcement side of this, the America side of this, and the political side of it, if you have any thoughts.
Sure. Well, thanks first for having me, Tom. What I'd say was this. I mean, let's cut straight to it. What happened on January the 6th was an attack on our democracy. That was just not a protest, not even just a violent protest. It was an attempt to subvert the democratic process, to stop the peaceful transfer of power, and it has to be viewed in that way. I was taken back watching the hearings. I've not had a chance to watch them all because I'm working here, but I was taken back to another time. They reminded me in some ways of the Watergate hearings, where the nation's attention was riveted to what was going on during that hearing. And I think the nation's attention needs to be riveted on these hearings as well. What we heard from those officers today was powerful, it was illuminating, and it was also prescriptive. They shared, at least at the beginning, we're just at the beginning stages now, the things that we need to do to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Chief among them being figuring out why this happened, who was responsible for it, who brought this about, and then we can certainly look at the events of the day. But I hope the focus will not only be on January the 6th, but those days preceding, those months preceding January the 6th, the organizations and people who brought this about. And again, do not forget, this was an attack on American democracy.
Yeah, and that sentiment was echoed by the 4 police officers as well, and it's extraordinary. I want to talk with you about the For the People Act and the Republicans' continued attacks on voting rights. This is something that you're working on very aggressively, but before I get to that, I just want to get some of this stuff kind of out of the way. The Department of Justice right now seems to be struggling, shall we say, with the issue of how to deal with many of the things that happened before President Biden was inaugurated as president. You had 5 different cabinet secretaries, for example, who were referred to the DOJ for prosecution. There's just a whole collection of concerns that no doubt are sitting at Attorney General Merrick Garland's feet right now. To what extent might Trump holdovers in the DOJ, or I mean, is that something that we should be concerned about, or that General Garland should be concerned about? What can you tell us about how the DOJ works that might inform our understanding of what's going on there right now?
Yeah, I don't think that should be a primary concern to the American people. The Justice Department, where I served for probably close to 30 years, is really peopled with employees who, they might be Republicans, they might be Democrats, they might be independents, conservatives, progressives, whatever, who really kind of leave their political leanings at the door and decide cases on the facts and the law. And to the extent that there was that thin layer of political appointees from the Trump administration, they have largely, they're pretty much gone. Now, some of them may have, as the term we use, burrowed in. But I think that given the new political leadership that we have there, Vanita Gupta, Merrick Garland, Kristen Clark, Elisa Monaco, all those people, I think that we can feel assured that the decisions that will be made there will not be influenced by Trump holdovers. We may disagree with what it is this Justice Department does, but it'll be a function of what this new administration, this new Justice Department is acting in a way consistent with the way in which the DOJ at its best conducts itself. It'll be as a result of those decisions and not influenced by Trump holdovers.
Yeah. Now, you were certainly, as Attorney General, overseeing or participating in enforcement of the Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, legislation that made sure that everybody, regardless of a race or other station in life, are able to vote and participate in our democracy. This seems to be coming under considerable attack, both from the Supreme Court and from other quarters. And you're working now on trying to strengthen our right to vote at the same moment that, for example, Georgia and 17 states now have said that if partisan Republicans don't like the outcome of an election, and apparently, I mean, the strategy is going to be like they're already replacing election officials, for example, in largely black counties in Atlanta. I used to live down there, and this is just shocking stuff. What's going on? Tell us about your work, about what you're doing right now, and your thoughts on this.
Well, first, Tom, I'd agree with what you just said. I mean, the word you just said is important. What they're doing now is shocking, and that's a great word. This is a multi-pronged attack on our democracy. Certainly what happened on January the 6th and what led up to that insurrection, these voter suppression measures that are being passed, considered in the states, I guess 400 now or so being considered. I think 18 have become law. And then also the political and racial gerrymandering that Republicans have indicated they're going to have a willingness to do, all of which is to take away the decision-making from the American people, subvert our nation of our democracy, subvert, this notion of who we think of ourselves, and entrench with the Republican Party a minority party in terms of both the number of votes that they get and the support that they are able to generate to cement this minority party with majority power. And so what we've been trying to do at the organization that I lead, the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, is to fight a couple of components. One is the gerrymandering. In August 16th, the Census Bureau was going to send the data to the states so that the line drawing, the redistricting, which we do every 10 years, can be done. I'm very concerned that Republicans, especially in states like Georgia, Texas, Florida, North Carolina, are going to try to come up with ways in which they continue to draw themselves into power in a way that's, again, inconsistent with our founding ideals. We've also been fighting this problem of voter suppression that you talked about, where these measures are being put in place simply to make it more difficult for all Americans to vote, but in particular to make it more difficult for citizens of color, Democratic-leaning, progressive-leaning voters to get to the polls. This is all about power. This is all about the acquisition and the retention of power, and Democrats and progressives have got to be prepared to respond in that way. I think that progressives are too often uncomfortable with the acquisition and the use of power, and Republicans and conservatives are not. This is time for us to stand up, to put on our big boy and big girl pants and fight for our democracy.
Yeah, I'm with you. Charles Blow has the New York Times columnist has a brilliant piece. I think it was 2 days ago in the New York Times, basically saying directly to President Biden, if you think that we're going to be able to overwhelm, have such a voter turnout as happened in Georgia, last year, such a voter turnout that it can overwhelm the attempts at voter suppression, you are mistaken. And therefore, we need to end the filibuster so we can pass SB 1, the For the People Act. Do you agree with that sentiment? And if so, how do we communicate that to the White House and to the few Democrats in the Senate, specifically Manchin and Sinema, although I understand there may be others, who may be reluctant to take on this project?
Yeah, you've got to understand what the aims of these measures are. It's not to prevent all black people from voting, all Democrats from voting. It's just to reduce the margins. If you cut down the black vote by 1, 2, 3%, the progressive vote, 1, 2, 3%, Democratic vote, 1, 2, 3%. Think about all the close elections, including those senatorial elections in Georgia, and close elections around the country. I mean, again, you look at the presidential election decided by, 77,000 votes, given our perverted electoral college system. If you just knock down the percentage of people who get to vote and who vote in a way that Republicans, conservatives don't like, you can have an influence on electoral decisions. You can have an impact on elections. And so, yeah, black people are going to come out. They're going to stand in line for 4 hours. Studies show that in Atlanta, if you were in a white district, you had to wait about 6 minutes to vote. If you're in a black district, you had to wait 51 minutes. Black folks did that. Why should black folks have to do that? Why should we risk having the numbers of black people who are unwilling to do that and then leave the lines, have their voices not be heard? So this is a time. This is a black and white decision. I don't mean racially, but this is are you for our democracy or are you against our democracy? Do you stand for our democracy or do you stand for some arcane Senate procedure that has been used in the past to frustrate the movement of this nation toward what we have been fighting for over 200 years? You got to decide. What are you for? We're going to get to the place where it's a binary decision. You're either for democracy or you're for, silly and anti-progressive, Senate processes.
Is that your message to President Biden, and how do we communicate that to him? We just have, by the way, 40 seconds till we're going to hit a break. My apologies.
No, my message to President Biden is to use the influence that you have and to do what you possibly can to make sure that these bills become law. He's a wily Washington guy who does a lot of things behind the scenes. So I'm withholding any criticism or concerns right now, knowing that they're focused on that, and I'm hoping that again he'll use the power of his office to make this happen.
Yeah. And what can we do to individually to work on this? And is there a website or someplace we can support your efforts?
Yeah, if you go to allontheline.org, we can certainly talk about all the things that we're doing there. We have a number of ways in which you can become involved in this process, and so I would urge you to go to that website, get involved, and to fight for our democracy.
Thank you. Allontheline.org. The 82nd Attorney General of the United States, Eric Holder. General Holder, thank you again for dropping by today. It's great talking with you.
All right, thanks for having me, Tom.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Anytime. We'll be back. It's 18 minutes past the hour.